Too funny. Too funny. Yup. All right, here I am. Here you are. Do me a favor and let me know if you can hear me okay. I need to bring up my comments so I can see that. Where is that window? Comments. All right, so if you make a comment, I should be able to see it. I may not see who you are, but I can see your comment. So drop that in there. Let me be sure that you can see me. And then I need you to please, if you're on Facebook, please like and share. Sorry if you can hear me moving about here. All right, let me get my act together so we can get into it. All right, John, I think you just text me, but my phone is on silent and I can't get to that stuff. So what's interesting for me is I can't. Okay, you good, bruh. All right, that's all I needed. All right, it's a little wavy. It's kind of weird. All right, so just so you know what I've been up to since some of y'all were with me this morning, I'm going to move this a little bit. Yeah, now you can see it all. I may fix that a little bit, but we're going to leave it like that for now. Because what I've been doing since some of you were on with me this morning. Oh, that's so dope. Look at that. All right, so this is, that's crazy. I didn't think that I'm using a green screen, so if I use a green, somebody says they can't share. Yeah, I don't know why you can't. I don't know. Let's take a quick look at that. I don't think we've seen that before, where we're unable to share, but I couldn't share it either. So who gonna be here is who's gonna be here. Let me see if I can fix that really quickly. Appreciate your patience. I promise we will get into this. Let me see if I'm able to do something here. I've been a techie for a long time. So let's see what happens here. Well, that's not going to work. Let's do it this way. I apologize, folks. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Why we can't share this, but we're gonna figure that out real quick here and get this going. All right, I don't see it. I'm not gonna mess with it right now because I don't want to waste your time or my time. We all got other things to do. So I think I'm good here. You all will have to let me know if for some reason you're having some issues. Anyway, all right, let's do it. At the top of the page next to the invite. Is that so? I see comments. All right. All right, let me turn that down. All right, we gotta go. All right, so since you all have seen me, I've been kind of messing around getting this setup together. Uh, and I got the green screen thing sorted out. I think it looks pretty decent. So let me just share something with you. So for me, part of what I like to do is I'm constantly wanting to learn. And so this background that you're seeing, uh, that was created through AI. Since I've seen you, what I did was provided it some information about. I'm going to fix this a little bit. So you're just going to see some tech stuff going on here. All right, I think that cleaned it up a little bit. So what I did is went in and sort of described the podcast and described myself. So if you're using generative AI, which means AI that can create something, you kind of have these conversations with it. Now you can see it a little bit at the top of the where the window are, what the windows are. I did cover them, but anyway, having this conversation. So described it. I'm a musician. I'm an executive. I am an author, a coach, and so we kind of cycled through some images. It kind of really went heavy in on the music piece. Then I got it to pull back some, but I don't know. I figure I just rock with it, but I can go back and do this at any point in time. I find it to be pretty dope that you can do this sort of stuff. I don't know why you're not doing more of this, but that's my whole AI conversation. That's not what we're here for today. But I do want to say to those of you who want to do things like this, like you want to have a podcast, you want to be going live, you want to be doing videos, don't don't trip. All right, just start. You really can. The technology exists today for you really to do most of the stuff just from your phone, right? I'm a little spoiled. I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. Um, no, that means it's time to play at somebody's church. Child, no, not gonna happen. Y'all need to know if I ever take another church gig as a paid musician, something ain't going horribly off the rails. Um, yeah, so not gonna happen. You you funny, you full of jokes. I like it. This is bugging me out though, y'all. Using this, I never thought about it when I picked up this screen. If you can see that, it says solve the solvable problems. Anyway, so let me say this. I want to get to a couple things and then get to our topics. If you want to do this, the best way to do it is simply to get started. It is easier to do an audio podcast than it is to do a video podcast. So if you need to start that way, start that way. But I've been talking to people for a year, um, couple years who keep talking about it and they haven't done it yet. It won't do it. I'm saying go ahead and do it. Just get started. You got to get content out there. Decide what you want your platform to be, what your message is. Are you intending to monetize? Are you just looking to inform? For me, I want to engage, but I kind of look at all this as an archive, right? So to be really transparent, you see a lot of the things that I post, a lot of them are archived, so I don't lose track of it, right? If people like it, see it, do whatever with it, that's great. Sometimes it's an archive for me. So I get it out, get it in some form. It's all part of the creative process. So if you're going to do it, just rock out, just go, just get started. You have, honestly, this is another place where AI comes in really handy just to help you formulate and get a handle on your ideas. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't 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 sleep on that. Um, so just get started. Stop playing around. All right. So need to share a couple things with you really, really quickly here. Man, I've been putting in new overlays and stuff. So who knows what's going on in here? So let's try see if I can get one to come in here. Nope, that ain't it. Which one am I looking for? I think I'm looking for this one. I don't think I really want it that way. I have a better way to do it. Um, Here you go. I knew it was here somewhere. All right. So for those of you who have never gotten any of your swag, any of the Live Free gear. Um, livefreeinspirations.com. There's some really cool stuff out there. This green mug that you cannot see, it's just, oh boy, it's like such a rookie move on my part. But these are the things that we do. Anyway, livefreeinspirations.com. Go out there, check it out. Sweatshirts, t-shirts. Not doing hats. I'm actually wearing a Golf for Life hat, my golf brand. But the mugs. So I like the mugs because they're just easy reminders. My favorite one is uh, thankfulness is transactional, but gratitude is transformational. That's probably my personal favorite. Some other people solve the solvable problems, which all this comes from principles of the live free lifestyle. Speaking of which, I want to talk about this briefly, not to try to sell you a bunch of stuff. I think it's important. One, because we have reached a milestone. I have now completed 4 books in less than a year, and they're good books. So tell me who you know that's done that. See, one of those things I want to talk about is getting through. Thank you, Dana. Um, Helping people get through some of these types of things because there is a method to the madness. Um, Dana, if you're still on here, you've been pretty close to some of this. Um, I don't know how you describe it, but you kind of see me in my thing. But pretty much, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to get it done. And I found some really good tools to help that happen. But most of it is still up here. It's all about what's going on in your head. It's all about what's going on in your heart. Um, and it's all about whether or not you will engage the right people to help you along your journey. If you are surrounded by people in your circle who are not helping you accomplish your mission, your vision, your dream, your goal, you have the wrong people around you, period. And it is very difficult for you to go beyond your circle. So I just want to be really clear with that. So, at anywho, all right. So we have the Principles of the Live Free Lifestyle, Volume 1. Then we have the workbook. Um, oh, there's the golf book. I was saying, where's the other book? And then I just finished the Live Free Evolution, which tell me what reason I don't have one sitting like right here in front of me. I think the closest one is upstairs. It's ridiculous. Um, but that book is different because I've never really been like I write notes and I keep track of things, but not like a consistent person who journals. I know that some people do. So this might be the most unique journal style book, period. And the reason is a lot of them are what's called a low content book. So there's a template that's used, and you basically get a bunch of pages of the same thing where you get to write. Well, what this book is doing is it's all distilled from Principles of the Live Free Lifestyle. It is a greater than 365-day journey that you can take. So there's a short message and there's a quote for every day, and then you get the rest of the page to write your points of gratitude, your inspired action, your insights, that sort of thing. And so because of that, it took a while to get this together. Actually, it's pretty quick to produce it, but to design it was not that difficult. To produce it, much, much more difficult. So that baby's about this thick. Um, but it's still easy to get through because there's just so little content on each page. It is divided into these 12 paths, each of them named after a precious stone, which has its own quality. So it kind of follows that format. But again, you don't have to do it every day. You don't have to start at the beginning. You don't have to do it sequentially. It's your journey. Do what you will. You'll hear more about that. All right. So let's get into this. And again, for you creators out there, get started. Stop bull jiving around. Just do it. Get your outline, get your topics, and just go. Just go. Um, but here's what I will warn you, finally, before I jump into these two things we're going to talk about. Still so dope. I'm sorry. I'm like a child. I can't help it. It's one of the things that keeps me going. Um, Make sure you start being you. When you start, make sure you are being yourself. That's what I wanted to say to you. Because um, imagine this: you start off kind of presenting yourself as someone else, right? With some different persona or something. What's up, Abronia? With some different persona, and then it becomes successful. You build an audience around this persona. You know what that means? Then you have to always be this persona, and that can turn your success into a prison. And it has happened to so many people in so many different areas of life, uh, from corporate to nonprofit to ministry um, to artist endeavors. You know, musicians, writers, all like it happens to people, and you wonder why people get into their thing or reaching success, and then they flame out, they trip out, they bug out, because a lot of them are trapped into a persona. They are not being themselves. It is better for you to build your audience based on you being you than you being someone else, and then you cannot take the mask off. Just don't do it. Trust me when I'm telling you. And I feel that in some ways, when Pivot Play started, I think I did that in a way. I'm gonna be really transparent with you, but that is because I think what I wanted to do was to be the most consumable by the largest number of people possible. But what's important to me now is to reach my audience, the people that I am designed and intended to reach and help. Those are the only people I care about. The rest can keep walking. It doesn't mean I don't care about those people, but I cannot twist myself into trying to meet someone else's expectation of what I should be doing or who I am. That I do not want to do. But also because my style, up close and personal, one on one, is it can be tough. I'm just telling you, because if we are in, I was about to be real churchy and say if we're in covenant, I'm not gonna say that. If we're in partnership, if we're working in unison, if we are enjoying together, and I am helping you, then I think me mincing my words does not help you. And so you're going to get more of the raw truth that I might put out on social media. And this is the reason why I'm moving away from Facebook, more towards YouTube, but then eventually into Patreon. Because if you really want to get the best of what I have to offer as an individual based on my experience, it cannot be in this public space. It's way too much. It's too crazy because people didn't want to control you, and then they talk about canceling you. I'm not going through that nonsense. I'd rather just go to a private space. It'll be subscription based. I'm never going to gouge people. That's not what I'm about. But I do think it's worth something. That's what we're going to do, and then I can just let it. I can let it all rip. Kind of, Dana, like what you get on a regular basis. And that's all I want to say this about my friend here, who's getting more and more like a church mother, clutching them pearls lately when I say stuff. But it's like when we start, like she did it to me just this morning when we talked. What is it, Dana? Like, I'm not doing this today. We're not doing this. It's like the first thing I say is like, we're not doing this. But I'm just, I'm just being myself. I'm just saying it the way I see it. That's all. But it does come out a little bit more raw. All right, let's jump into this. All right. So we will talk about these expectations. So throughout my leadership career, one of the things that I've learned and one of the things that I have taught to others, um, Brony says, yes, you can let it rip on YouTube. That's why we got to go to YouTube at least. But then we're going to go to Patreon because some of the stuff I'm putting out of Bronia, I'm not just, it's more valuable than those things that would be given away, right? Like if I'm giving you very specific roadmaps for how to accomplish certain things, how to overcome certain things, that has some value. Is that worth 12, $15 a month for somebody who's really invested in helping you? That's what it'll come down to. But anyway, so with these expectations, think about this, y'all. Um, Based on my leadership journey, one of the things that I would often say to people is this: part of what you want to do is to manage expectations of people. You want to manage expectations. And so that's the whole thing of what was said. Did you perceive it? When is it going to be delivered? What's the quality of what's going to come in? Like all those different points are about managing a person's expectations as opposed to, it's like this. If I ask you to go to the grocery store for me and you say, cool, got it. And then you show up at my door with two armfuls of groceries, and I'm looking like you. Well, what is that? Well, you asked me to go to the store. I did, but you never let me tell you what I wanted. See what I'm saying? So you went through all that effort, money out of your pocket, time in your vehicle or however you're moving around, only to arrive. But my expectations hadn't been met because we didn't get to exactly what they were. But now, what I'm seeing more in my personal life is where things go off the rails because people have what I call unspoken expectations. Let me give you an example. So let's say you are um, you're going out for dinner or something, and then you know somebody says like just like what should you wear like or what should you order or whatever it is like, but we see this all the time where people kind of have these expectations of you that want to tell you what you should do or how you should do a thing, but the first is it's never really expressed. It's just something that's in their head, and then when you don't reach those expectations, they react to that. People react to you not meeting their expectations as though you knew what those expectations were, as though you're obligated to meet their expectations. And in fact, you are not. But, I've had a couple situations with me over the last few months where people have kind of gotten bent out of shape because I haven't met their expectations. Yet they never spoke them. I'm just doing what I do, right? And they don't circle back to ask or get clarification on why you did something or why you didn't. And especially when we become parts of groups, right? Parts of our little teams, our little cliques, because those things kind of build their own sort of subculture. And then there's certain norms, right? So let's say, here you go. So let's say on Friday nights, after work, everybody meets up and goes to a certain restaurant or bar for happy hour. Well, once you do that for a while, it builds in the expectation with people that that's what you're going to do. This is what we do. But then you decide one Friday, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay home. I'm tired, or I want to watch this movie or see this game or whatever, and you don't show up. And you see people trip out over that. You guys know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen this where people react to something that you didn't do that they thought that you should do? And then it all goes off the rails. Those are the situations that I'm talking about. And even in open society, so like if someone's dealing with a server or waiter or cashier or a manager at a store, what they're laying out to them is what they expect them to do. But you don't know their norms, you don't know their rules, you don't know their processes. It's just how you want to see it, how you think it should be done. And the split second is not done the way that you thought. You have a whole hissy fit about it. That's what I'm talking about. Is when we put these expectations out into the world that are completely unfounded. It's just stuff that's in our heads. There's almost 8 billion people on the planet. What if we all did that to one another all the time? You know what's going to happen? We're going to end up at war with each other all the time. And so let me wrap this part of it by saying this. This is what I believe to be the solution to these wild and unfounded and mostly unspoken expectations. It is that we operate in agreement. What do I mean by that? Is if you have an expectation of something that I should do, we're going to be in the best place if I have some idea of what the heck you're talking about. What is this expectation? And you know when we're really going to be on good ground? When we agree to that expectation. Not the fact that you have it. Because you may not even have a right to have it, at least expressing it to another person to say what they should or shouldn't do. When or when they shouldn't do something, how they should do something. So first, the expectation needs to be spoken, but then it needs to be agreed to. And in this way, I've been saying it like this for a number of years, that understanding is sometimes better than agreement. And I get that. But then what I'm really learning is we have to graduate from expectations to agreements. Because if you have an expectation of me and I agree to that thing, now we're getting somewhere. Because if I do not do it in the way that we agreed to, now you can call me to the carpet. Now you can hold me accountable. You can get a little toot if you want to. But we are talking about what we agreed to, not just what you expected. Not because this is what we've always done. This is what this is what they told us in our family. This is what they taught us in church. This is how we do it at my job. This is how we do it in my neighborhood. This is how we've always done our family reunions, whatever those things are. And some of you are walking around at the highest level of festivity because you have expectations of the world, and the world is largely ignoring you. You have people in your circle, or maybe formerly in your circle, who have not met your expectations, and you're carrying that level of resentment, anger, disappointment, hurt, whatever it is, over things that are still largely just in your head. And who's really suffering? Well, first we know that you are. Is the other person suffering? Maybe. Because typically then what you're going to want to do is, because your inability to speak your expectations and move those to agreements means you're probably also prone to passive aggressive behavior. So your unspoken expectation is not met. And so now what you will do is you will punish the person in some way. You're going to not, maybe you think you are, right? You're not going to speak to them. You're not going to this. You're not going to that. You're going to try to take something away from them if you're passive aggressive. Do you know all this stuff can happen and they still have no idea about any of this? Like, they have no idea. They just know you acting a fool. They just know you acting weird. They just know you acting off. They just know you got an attitude. So the person who's really suffering, if you're prone to these behaviors, is you. That stuff just, it's never going to be a good thing to allow that sort of energy to have residence in you. It's never going to be a good thing. Never. So what I'm saying is, let's realize it's almost 8 billion people on the planet. If we want to have community, if we want to have collaboration, if we want to work in teams, if we want to be enjoined to one another, if we want to have partnerships, your expectations must first be spoken, and then they need to be agreed to. Then we can have some accountability. Then you can call me to the carpet. Then you can say you did or didn't do. I thought we agreed to this. I thought you said you were going to do this. That's a far different place than I didn't do something that I didn't even know that you thought I should do. Now you pissed off because I didn't do it. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let me move on. We've been on here for a minute. Although I don't know how long, because nothing I have in front of me. Oh, yes, I do. I know exactly how long. All right, 35 minutes. Let's keep going. Now I'm going to be even a bit more transparent with you, because I think this is pretty interesting, right? Like, I'm in my 50s, but I am still learning. I am learning myself as I continue to live my life. And when I talk about, here's the things that the gurus didn't tell us, right? And we've heard a lot of things. We've read books. We've seen the videos. I don't care if it's Les Brown, Tony Robbins, whoever it is that inspires you, right? And the inspiration is to bring us to a better version of ourselves, right? To release and unlock all this good and all this capability and all this potential, so we have at least some opportunity to eventually transition out of here as empty as freaking possible, right? But it's all up and up and up and better and doing good. Here's what I'm coming to realize. And please let me know if this has been your experience. Because I've not heard anyone really talk about this. This is what the gurus didn't tell you. And even like go read Principles of the Live Free Lifestyle Volume 1. And one of the things I speak about briefly in is about this unfolding of ourselves, right? This emergence of ourselves, this blossoming of ourselves, right? This flowering of ourselves, right? And when a flower comes up, the petals come out. It's beautiful. There's this amazing fragrance. But now let's look at it like a rose, right? And so you can get all that. You can get the beautiful, the reds and yellows and the whites and all this beautiful stuff. And again, that great fragrance that comes out of a rose. But what do you also get? You also get the thorns. And this is what I'm learning about my own development. And if this is you in any way, thumbs up, drop me a comment. Because like I said, I'm being transparent. I want to feel like I'm totally out here by myself. But let me just share this anyway. In this most recent phase of my own personal development, where all these great things are coming to the surface. And I think for me, it's coming on the heels of my learning, my exploration, and then turning that into things, right? So again, 4 books in 10 months. Doing things like everyday AI, or when we did the crypto course. Like there's a lot of things where the good is coming up, the coaching and mentoring that I'm. So it is the unfolding of me. But what I'm noticing is while all those vibrant, brilliant colors are coming to the surface, and all that amazing fragrance, the other thing that comes up is all the other stuff. And so what I'm confronted with is not just all these great things that I'm doing and capable of, but I'm starting to see other things that have been buried, right? And so I've seen a couple situations in my personal life, things that have come up either by virtue of conversation or something that just, an incident that happened, and I found myself being triggered. And let that sit for a minute and see if you'll be transparent with yourself and see if this happens to you. And when it first started to happen, I kind of set it in my mind like, wow, this must be when trauma becomes triggers, right? Because here's what trauma does when it's unaddressed, unrecognized, and not put into context, right? And sometimes it's suppressed because we go through things that are so horrific that we suppress it. And so it's not in view, we're not thinking about it, and then something happens that reminds us or pushes that button, and then it's like it's happening all over again. That's what being triggered is. And when you're triggered, there's going to be some type of reaction. This is what I saw happen to myself. Has this ever happened to you? Right? But this is what I saw happening to me. And the more this process has gone on, I'm saying, oh, the unfolding of ourselves is not just the good. It's not just our potential. It's not just our greatness. It is all of our humanity comes to the surface, and then we get to decide what we're going to do with it. What are you going to do with this? So if you see this potential, you have this great idea, this opportunity, you still are deciding, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to embrace this? Am I going to walk this out? Am I going to become my own champion? But by the same token, when you see your weaknesses, right, your vulnerabilities, your hurt or your pain come to the surface, you get to make some decisions about what you are going to do with that thing. And that is the thing that the gurus didn't tell us. That be careful that as you unfold, as you evolve, as you emerge, everything is going to emerge. And if you're in a situation where you believe that you are growing, you are blossoming, you are evolving, you are emerging, and you are not seeing other sort of characteristics of your full humanity, I question whether or not the growth piece is real. Because it is all of us. And maybe you haven't been through some of the trauma, some of the other. But if you're at this stage in life and you're just getting to some of the things you're getting to, there's a reason why you haven't gotten there. And it's likely something that's buried in your past or in your humanity that is creating that dynamic that keeps you stalled, right? So let me give you an example. So let's say you are stalled because you've been a part of a belief system that has held you captive. And this could be by the expectations of your parents, people in your household, your family, your church, your club, your sorority, your fraternity, but whatever it is, because they've placed expectations and you have lined up with those things. Well, while you're on somebody else's agenda, what you're not doing is your agenda. And for you to part with that old agenda for something new, that's a process. That's something you have to go through. That's something you have to deal with, because you're not just separating yourself from a belief system, you're also separating yourself potentially from groups of people and relationships that you've had for a long time. That comes with some level of anxiety and discomfort for a lot of people. And so most of us have been there. So I'm saying if all you see is the positive, the growth, I can be this, I'm doing this, I'm the great, blah, 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 and you're not seeing any of the things that represent the remainder, the balance of your humanity, I question whether or not the growth is real or if it's sustainable. If you believe that it is and you have, uh, let me say it, the receipts for that, then let's have a conversation. Because I'm hoping that that would be the case. But what I'm realizing is we are a balance of things. We are this dichotomy. We are both our good and our bad. We are our right and our wrong, right? We have these tendencies towards this thing that is favorable, but we may also have tendencies towards some things that are not so favorable. So, and maybe you're just in the habit of continually hiding and not allowing those things to be exposed. But I'm telling you that the authentic growth of yourself is wanting to bring those things to the surface as well. In the same way that you have to decipher, decode, and discern what you're going to do with the good and the best of you, you also have to decode, discern, and decide what you're going to do with the rest of you. And I'm saying when it happens, acknowledge it. I don't want to say embrace it, but you have to at least acknowledge it. But you're going to have to make some decisions. If there's something that you need to go back and cover that ground, do you need to cover it with individuals or with a group? Is it something that's best dealt with in therapy? However it happens, but you need to be careful. And again, this is what I went back in the beginning. Whatever it is that you're going to do it as you. Do it as the real you. Do it as the authentic you, where you can look yourself in the mirror both during and after those things and look at yourself with integrity. You can look at yourself without blame and shame. You need to be able to look at yourself without blame and shame. And you need to embrace it all as your human journey. Now, there are going to be some people who want to remind you of certain things, bring certain things to your attention. Let them. Here's what I tell people who want to take the time to tell me about myself, tell me about my weaknesses, tell me about my shortcomings. Here's what I say. If I were to compare my list of my shortcomings to your list of my shortcomings, I promise you my list is longer. Who said that? Boy, there you go. He said, "Can I?" I thought I was being pretty transparent. You want me to get even more personal? Let me think of a situation where I don't have to dispel other people's names. I'm trying to think of a situation, and I try to. I'm willing to put myself on Front Street. I don't usually want to put other people on Front Street because I'm no Cat Williams or Monique, for God's sakes. Um, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you I'm telling the truth because it's just my truth. It's just a truth. It's just a perspective. It's not the truth. Sit with me for 10 seconds, y'all. Let me think about a situation. Oh boy. I mean, I'm gonna put some people out there if I get into that. All right, let me look at the question again. Let me be clear on the question. Can or will you give a somewhat personal thing that has happened to you? Okay, I'll give you one. So a few months back, I was having a conversation with my oldest daughter, right? Who is brilliant, right? And in some ways, I'm a fan of my kids. I really am. Like they really do phenomenal things that I wish that I had the courage to do. Like my older two kids both live internationally. They they think about going to a different country like you think about going to the town next door. And there's what 67% something like that of people never leave their hometown. So my kids are different. But anyway, so she lives in London. We were having a conversation, and she made a comment about her future. And in that moment, I was triggered because she compared herself to someone else, and I don't see her that way. But the fact that she saw herself that way, oh, we did not have a good conversation after that. But it wasn't her fault. It was 100% my fault because she said something and it triggered a fear in me. All right, you asked, here you getting it. It triggered a fear in me because when I was coming up, because of what I came out of, any level of success was like winning the lottery because I never really saw it for myself. And so I've always lived my life. I've grown up with the idea of understanding how precarious any level of accomplishment or success can be. It's all precarious to me. Like what you have today can be gone in a moment. It could be gone tomorrow, and your whole circumstance could change. So I'm aware of that, not in a way that I fear if I lost it. I just know that it's precarious. But I see a much better future for my kids. And the reason is a lot of the things that I learned as an adult, through self-development, through self-improvement, through that whole vein of thinking, that's their foundation. So what I know people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are just learning about themselves. My kids knew this stuff when they were teenagers. So their foundation is the one that I'm on now. So that's what they've been building from. So of course I see much more promise, and I'm expecting that anything that I've ever done that could be considered an accomplishment or success, I expect my kids to run circles around that. Now, some parents don't want to see that for their kids. They want to be the gold standard forever and never want their kids to surpass them. I want my kids to go as far as they can go, right? And I will applaud that. But so we were having that conversation, when she likened herself to this other person, I lost it. It was not a good moment in our relationship. And I'll be in London in a couple weeks, and I'll get to see her and embrace her. But I to tell her, it's on me. I messed that up. But again, while I'm doing all this positive stuff, right, publishing books, building courses, buying real estate, blah 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 blah, in and out of the country, I still had that moment, right? And so it all comes to the surface. And what I'm saying is you can't deny that. And so in that one, the way it happened so fast. I didn't give myself the opportunity to process it. I just reacted, right? And I'm sure it bruised her in the moment. It wasn't certainly my intention, but it's not about intention. Sometimes it's about outcome. So the outcome was, it was not a good moment for her. It was not a good moment for our relationship. So that's one that I can give you because it's on me, right? I was thinking about some other stuff that people have done to me. Whatever with that. I'm telling you what I did. And I know that I can be prone to that, right, in certain situations. And so that's what I'm aware of in terms of my journey. But this I'm saying, this is what the gurus don't tell you. You can grow, you can evolve, right? You can emerge, but expect all of your humanity to come up in that journey. And as as the good, better, best, there's the bad, like the not so favorable, the habitual, the moments of weakness, the moments of poor judgment, bad habits, that sort of thing. When it comes up, it's there to be dealt with in the same way that you want to celebrate your potential. You have to recognize and be willing to work on the other stuff too. So that's it. That's about it. That's about what I had. So if there's no more questions, I'm about to get up out of here. I ran upstairs. This still cracks me up. All right, but do me a favor. if you do not have a a copy of Principles of the Live Free Lifestyle, go get it. Everything's on Amazon. The audiobook is out there, so if you're not a reader, and the audiobook is less than 3 hours. And it's super inexpensive because they do it based on the length. So I think the audiobook on Audible is like $5, something like that. Um, the the Live Free Evolution, because it is like this 400 page journal style book, is going to have to be around $30 because of the production cost. So that just is what it is. But that's a book you should have for a long time. And if you go through it and you're actually populating the pages, excuse me, in the introduction, the writing, I think what I said in there is the writing is not homework, it's hard work. It is really you getting the opportunity to have a discourse with yourself, perhaps around some of the things like what we're talking about today, because it touches on all these different topics. It touches on all these different subjects, whether we're talking about self-care, whether we're talking about gratitude, whether we're talking about living in peace, whether we're talking about communing and working with others. All those things are in. I mean, there's a lot of content in there, right? There's more than 365 entries in that book, along with 12 stories. So I always want to give people more value than anything that I would ask you monetarily in return. So with that, yeah, man, come on. It's been almost an hour. Sheesh. It's Saturday. People busy, man. This still cracks me up. I will try not to make this mistake again of a green um, bringing myself a green cup when I'm on green screen. So anyway, do me a favor. Do something amazing. Do something awesome. If nothing else, love yourself. Like, you really are worth it. Love yourself. All right? Peace out, fam.